by any chance the individual who I met 4 years ago at a gas station is watching this right now, I just want you to know that this is not a Shinedown hoodie. It's a summoning hoodie. Back again, as I promised, with the vinyl collection of mine, part 2 now. And yes, guys, now we're doing some real content on my channel. Those last couple of videos, no. That isn't apparently real content. This right here, me doing this is the real content. Anyway, yep, second part in my vinyl collection series. So I'll put this in a playlist on my homepage on YouTube. That way, in case you missed part 1, even though that was only 2 videos ago, you can check that out as well. Also, too, this is one of the couple of parts I'm really not looking forward to making. Not because these bands are bad or anything. It's just, really this part is going to be dominated by one specific band. And there's going to be some parts, especially in the A section of my collection, that it's really only going to be dominated by one band. So if you know me throughout the years, it's kind of obvious which some of the names are going to be. But yeah, other than that, what will be playing in the background is this black metal band from Switzerland called Trespasser. About a couple of weeks ago, I had a video all about red anarchist black metal, and a lot of you guys were commenting this band for me to check out, and my god, thank you all who did, because this band fucking slays so goddamn hard that I can't get over it that people honestly believe that Dawn Raid is the riff-heavy, you know, red anarchist black metal band out there. Like, give me a fucking break. This band annihilates Dawn Raid. And I hate to break the fragile little pussies of a lot of NS bands out there too, but this band honestly jams out a lot harder than a lot of bands you guys dick ride. So I can't urge it enough. Check this band out, because this band fucks. This is just riff-heavy black metal as it gets. And good news for everyone who likes owning physical media. On their Bandcamp, they just put up the pre-orders for the second pressing of this album and snagged it up right away. Really digging this band, and hopefully they keep going, and hopefully they gain a bit more steam. That way Dawn Raid fans actually knows what an actual, you know, black metal riff sounds like. With all that said, now we can finally get back into my vinyl collection. Last part we ended with Evangelist, and this part we're going to start with them again. This is Evangelist with their third album, Riches in the Murk. I would say out of all the material I own by Evangelist, hate to say this is easily my least favorite of theirs, because it just feels like everything's so drawn out. It doesn't really feel like much is happening within this album. Like, it's just a dark, dismal, you know, blackened death metal album that just feels as if everything drags out. I don't know, it's just really not that memorable to me, but I guess I keep it to be a completionist because I basically have everything Evangelist has done up until, you know, Val had to leave. Which, yes, I know in my last part I said that I think Val was the more creative one between the two main members, and I know the other member, which his name escapes me, does like all the basic stuff, the guitars, the drums, and all that stuff. But Val gave it the creative part, I feel like, which is why I feel like the whole identity of Evangelist and their sound really evaporated when Val left. But yeah, anyway, back to the album right here, Riches in the Murk. Again, kept it just to be a completionist. So again, we have artwork, backside with the track listings, printed in her sleeve with the band logo. Really thought their band logo looked really cool. Credits on the other side, and just comes on standard black vinyl. After that, I even got more Evangelist material. This is their EP, Dream and Evil Dream. So this EP right here is 38 minutes long, and Dream and Evil Dream is the title track, and it's just all one long continuous track. And again, just like Riches in the Murk, it's an EP that kind of drags out a bit too much. I mean, yeah, it being one long continuous 38-minute track, there are moments in here that kind of, you know, build up to something. You get all those weird experimental moments, especially with the cello and the saxophone coming through, that just kind of throws a bit of curveballs at you to make this track a bit more spiced up. But again, other than that, it's just kind of a sleeper for me. I feel like it's not really anything I listen to all that much. I mean, I remember getting this, I think at the Maryland Death Fest in 2016 at the Hell's Headbanger vendor they had, And again, I really only bought this just to be a completionist with the band. And other than that, I think I spun this maybe 2 or 3 times at the most and can't say much else about it. But again, we have the artwork, backside, insert sheet with credits, and just basically nothing on the other side. And once again, another sexy plain black vinyl. Then we move on to Evangelist's 4th full-length album. This is Enthralled to the Void of Bliss. For me, this is where Evangelist really peaked in popularity, and I really think they balanced out the aggressive style you want in extreme metal while still balancing out the experimental moments to make it all the schizophrenic and without sacrificing their unique sound, I would say. That a lot of people that I wouldn't expect to like music like this were really digging it at the time. And I think, if my memory serves me right, this album came out a little bit after they were doing a few tours or some of their last shows they ever did. And I remember catching them at the Hell's Head Bash, I think it was, the year was, 2015. And really, they were the best act there, in my personal view, because while every other band was being, you know, as crazy and heavy as possible, like all the black metal, all the death metal bands, Evangelist was like the biggest, you know, oddball of the bunch, and really the black sheep, I would say, within the lineup, and they just really stood out to me. And it just sucks that a lot of the people thought it was a joke how they were performing, how odd it was, but really it was the most entertaining one for me personally, and that's really how I got to being obsessed with them and was really hyped for this album right here. And yeah, really, I would say if you want to get into Evangelist, this is the album to really get into, because I really think, again, it showcases both sides of Evangelist perfectly. And pretty sure it's still available. This was put up through 20 Bucks Spin, and as you guys know, 20 Bucks Spin always keeps stuff in print, only, you know, I don't think Evangelist has like 8 bajillion different color variants to choose from. So keeping the routine going, you have the artwork right here. Backside with track listings, I guess, I don't know. All this is so incredibly illegible to understand. Once again, another insert sheet with band logo and credits. Other side is, I don't fucking know. And this final variant comes on gold with black splatter. And the final thing I have that's Evangelist related is a 2-way split between Evangelist and Bluthaus Nord. If you're a fan of experimental extreme music, this is a match made in heaven for you, because once again, Evangelist keeps the style going of that dark, murky, schizophrenic style of black metal and death metal utilized throughout their whole discography with this split. And Bluthaus Nord, which is a black metal band that's really impossible to define exactly what they are, because they will experiment in every which way possible that most bands wouldn't even dare to try. That the saying, expect the unexpected with Bluthaus Nord, that saying is used to its fullest mark whenever this band drops anything. Now, if I had to pick a favorite within this particular split, honestly, I would say the Bluthaus Nord side is a bit more favorable for me to listen to. Whereas the Evangelist side, once again, it's a really long, drawn-out track, as I believe it's like a little over 20 minutes long. And it feels a bit more eventful to complement the Bluthaus Nord side. But the Bluthaus Nord side has 4 different tracks that makes each part just a bit more distinguishable. So for me personally, Bluthaus Nord is the better of the 2 sides, but make no mistake about it, both bands bring their A-game material with this split. As for the layout, it was put out through Deborah Morty, which basically all of Evangelist material is put out through them, so if you want anything, go to there. But yet we have the artwork. Backside comes on a gatefold with a printed inner sleeve. Here's side A and side B. Once again, another plain black vinyl, but I just want to show you the labels, the Evangelist side and the Bluthaus Nord side. Moving on to finally a different band now. This is, I believe it's pronounced Eriker, and this is either their debut album or their sophomore album, because I know they have a release before this. I just can't remember if it's a demo or a full length. But yeah, this band is another great black metal band from the Netherlands, I'm pretty sure, or Denmark. I know it's from Copenhagen, I think, so that might be Denmark if I'm not mistaken. Hey, I'm an American, we suck at geography outside of my continent, but damn, this is so good. black metal that really infuses also a lot of synth work. So really, to me, this is like as if maybe Depressive Silence or Mortis really just concentrated more on black metal than dungeon synth. And what I really admire about their songwriting is that their synth work really complements the guitarist that makes this very raw, dissonant sound that we would usually talk about feel way more melodic and soaring and just easier on the ears, that just complements each other really well and makes the dungeon synth moments way more powerful and more ventful, I would say. So really good black metal that not a lot of people talk about. It's put out through Tortigard, and I'm not really sure if it's still available or not, because I know Tortigard records, for the most part, they'll last for a couple of weeks, unlike other black metal labels when they hype up stuff. And sometimes they keep it in print and sometimes they don't, but regardless, Tortigard is a reliable label, so maybe if it is out of print, they'll do more represses, because Tortigard's always been reliable. But yeah, definitely check this band out. And again, keeping the routine going, we have the artwork right here, backside with the track listings. And once again, like most of the records in this part so far, it just comes on a standard black vinyl. Okay, so this is the second to last band that will be shown within this part, but we're not even halfway done showing anything. Next up is the very highly acclaimed album by Agalloch, The Mantle. If you have seen anyone here on YouTube talk about this album in any which way possible, from a CD or a vinyl update, a list, or an album review, they will appraise this album from the moon and back and then some. And I get it, this album is actually really good and it deserves a lot of that appraise. But for me personally, it's a seasonal album. It's really an album I listen to during colder weather, like, you know, around autumn to the beginning of winter. I feel like this album really complements the aesthetic of a seasonal time. So that's usually when I'm going to be listening to this album, around this time of year. But to say it's like one of the greatest albums ever within the realms of metal, I don't know about that. But that's just me personally. But yeah, Agalloch is a band that blended like what? Folk, post-rock, doom metal, atmospheric black metal, sometimes even progressive rock to an extent that I can understand why they got such a strong following. They definitely do have a unique sound that really they made it and molded it into their own. Barring influence, I would say, from bands like Ulver during when they were a black metal band, but just adding a lot more to it. Now, I caught these guys live, I want to say it was either, I think 2014 when they did like their very last shows, and they're really a good act to see live, but sadly that's never going to happen again because the whole controversy of how they broke up was ridiculous. But I wasn't too butthurt because I'm not that crazy for them. Really, I just wanted to get this album right here that Armageddon have back when it dropped in 2015, this repress, and I really haven't looked back on it since, really. So I mean, yeah, it's a bummer that when bands break up, but I wasn't too much of a fan of them to really be that upset by it. Other than that, I don't really need to say much about this album because, I mean, if you've seen any music reviewer here on YouTube, they'll bring this up in some way, shape, or form and give you all the details that you need to know. And I mean, it's gotten so much acclaim from fans and critics that I think we're all kind of aware of how this album sounds. But yeah, other than that, just keeping the routine going with the layout. Here's the artwork for it, a bit different from the CD variant of it. Backside, this is the repress from N Records from 2015. Double LP, both on plain black vinyl, but comes in a gatefold, along with a big-ass booklet with artwork, band pictures, and lyrics to go along with everything. Continuing on next, the rest of this video is all by just one band. And who would that be? Well, it would be Akitsa. And we started off with their debut demo, Total Servitude. If memory serves me right, I don't think I ever showed this record in any vinyl update because I got it late last year, and I think it's just because I've talked about Akitsa so much that I never got around to showing it. But yeah, this is like the 20th anniversary of this particular demo right here that was put out through Hospital Records. And I think either Hospital or Tortigard still has copies of this. And I mean, I had the demo tape and I have the CD variant of this, so I wasn't really high keen to grabbing it right away. But when Tortiguard has it, usually they have it for like a discounted price because it's all in the Canadian currency, so everything's cheaper for us Americans, so I had to get it when Tortiguard got copies of it. But yeah, basically Akitsa's beginnings, where they had more, I would say, of a noise aspect to them. Again, still blending like, you know, black metal and punk music together, with just way more usage of noise and making it all the more static and kind of like demo quality. That for a demo, I would say it's actually really good, but it's really harsh on the ears for newcomers of black metal. So not really the best place to start out with Akitsa, I would say personally. I will say though, I do admire Hospital Productions for making the layout as close as possible to the original demo tape. Because I mean, they still have the butt ugly logo that Akitsa used when they started out in the late 90s, along with the really kind of like distorted looking, you know, artwork of this graveyard right here. But yeah, other than that, for the layout, obviously, again, you have the artwork. Double LP, but this comes on a clear vinyl with like red and black splatter on this. I believe this is still available on Hospital Productions and Tortiguard, limited to 300 copies. As well too, it comes in this really big poster that I'm not really that crazy for these blown up posters. Double-sided. So we have the first side right here, I believe, of OT, and I just love how bad the photo is. That you can see on OT's eyes, it's red, that the flash of the camera is picked up from it, which I just find to be so amateurish that I just can't help but like laugh at it and admire it to some degree. And the other side is the new logo, which I prefer way more than the old logo of Akitsa, just more updated. All black with the title of the demo at the bottom. Then I have the one and only compilation that Akitsa put out back in either 2003 or 4. I know it's like around the mid-2000s this was released. And this is a compilation of all the really early material by Akitsa that originally was never put out on vinyl because it's total servitude before, you know, they did the 20th anniversary vinyl pressing of it. That contains both the CD and cassette variants of it, which, I mean, there's really not much differences between the two other than like some versions of each track and rehearsals and stuff like that. But really the selling point for me was that it contains the material that they did with the split with the band Song of Melkor, I think, which is basically impossible to get the cassette variant of that, which was really the selling point for me to get this. But yeah, other than that, there's really nothing else really to get from this other than if you want to be a collector scum like me and own everything they ever put out. But yeah, if you want to get this, I'm pretty sure sellers on Discogs are really the only place where you can get this, because the label it was put out by, what, I think it's Raging Bloodlust Records. I don't even think that's a distro anymore. Has been closed, so yeah, Discogs is really the only place. And other than that to talk about, it's all on plain black vinyl. It's limited to 666 copies. Ooh, what a creative number. And I got number 22 out of 600. From there, we go to one of my all-time favorite black metal albums ever, which would be the debut full-length by Akitsa, Goitai, which I feel like I'm saying completely wrong, but none of you guys in the comments are correcting me on it, so either I'm saying it right, or none of you guys give a shit because you're all getting used to how I mispronounce like half the albums I talk about on this channel. But anyway, the debut album by Akitsa, I think I put like, what, number 6 within my all-time favorite black metal albums list. And what I've always admired so much about Akitsa, especially on this album, is though their writing is really basic, it's just black metal and punk music kind of blended together, it's just how OT executes his vocals that has just always made this band and this album just such a standout for me. Like, a great example of it is basically the opening track within this album, where he's gonna do all these different shrieks and screams going in and out, and all of a sudden he'll start doing like these oi punk type of singing within the album that I've realized a lot of people kind of criticize Akitsa because it's not consistent. They would wish that the black metal parts were on one side of the album and the punk parts were on another side. For me personally, them blending it all together randomly, it just keeps the listener on their toes, and for me personally, it just makes each moment stand out more, I feel like. And it makes these really simplistic, like, oi punk moments feel all the more extreme just because they're really kind of like twisting and swerving around all these different ideas within the album's track listing that I've just always admired with Akitsa, and they really just hit it out of the park in my personal view with the debut. Plus, I would say as well, the lo-fi production on it really just complements the whole raw black metal punk hybrid sound they're going for. So again, just in every little standpoint, they really hit it out of the park. But yeah, this is the 15th anniversary edition of this album, put out through Hospital Records. A little different from the first press. The first press of the album artwork is basically this image just all blown up in the whole piece, whereas the second press of this is just, you know, kind of within this little frame, which personally, I like the second press artwork a bit more. But yep, artwork, backside really basic with the track listings. Comes on a gatefold, just double LP, plain black vinyl. Lyrics all in French, so yeah, no good for me there. But again, let me state just one last closing remark with this, because again, it's one of my all-time favorite black metal albums. If you really want to get into Akitsa, because again, the rest of this video is going to be all talking about them, this, in my personal view, is the best place to start, because it's the first thing I ever heard by them, and I instantly fell in love with this band back in, like, what, I think 2016, yeah, around the time that this came out, the 15th anniversary, is when I heard this because of all the talk from it, and I've only grown to love this band more and more and appreciate the sound they've done ever since. Then we move on to their sophomore album, I believe titled Song Nordic. I think kind of saying that a little bit wrong. And I would say out of everything I own by Akitsa, this is my least favorite of theirs, because this is their most stripped down, basic album out of anything they've done. Like, the most stripped down black punk album within their catalog, that if Akitsa really just stayed this style, I wouldn't obsess over them the way I have been, but really only got this during the time because I was just obsessing over them and buying up everything I could. That really, this is Akitsa at their most stripped down, I would say. I will say though, the title track on this album, again, Sing Nordic, it really has the best guitar riff, I feel like, and hearing them play it live when I saw them at, I know it was in New York, and I forget the name of the venue right now, it's escaping me, but it's like, it's the venue that you basically see, or saw back, you know, when we could go to shows, all the time in New York. Oh my god, what's the name of the fucking venue now? It's, oh yeah, St. Vitus, yeah, that's the name of that venue. Saw them there and they killed it. Oh my god, it was so worth it to see Akitsa live, and it was a bucket list band for me because they don't do tours, Akitsa. They do like these one night special shows, and that's it, and that's all they'll ever do. So I had to take a day off of work. I remember what I had to do. I had to take a day off of work. No, actually, no, I didn't take a day off of work. My fucking god, oh my god, this was so dumb. What I did was I went to work, immediately got done with work, took a bus to New York, got there in New York from the bus station, had to take a ferry to go to Long Island, then I got off the ferry to then take a taxi to finally then get to St. Vitus, walked in, saw Old Tower perform, then finally saw Akitsa perform, got a beer, left, had to take a taxi back over the bridge to then wait at the train station for 2 hours, get on the train. It was like a 3-hour train ride from New York to Providence, Rhode Island. From there, I got back in my car and then drove to work the next day. I did all of that just to see Akitsa, and god fucking damn it, it was so worth it. But fuck man, just again, to see them live, that was totally a bucket list band. But yeah, again, way off track here. This is the first press of this album through, I believe, Meteor Noir Records. Again, this got a repress as well, because last year basically all the full-length by Akitsa got repressed through Hospital Productions. So if you want that, go there. As for the layout, this is like an early 2000s black metal release, so it's not in the best condition. Comes, obviously, this artwork. The repress is a bit different. I know this has got like a purplish gray color for the silhouette, whereas the repress is all black and white. Then backside with the track listings. Just comes on a single plain black vinyl. Again, really thin, and this record is really flimsy. So as cool as it is to own the first press, I advise you, if you want to get this, get the repress, because I bet Hospital Productions did a much better job than this label did like nearly 20 years ago. From there, I also have the EP by Akitsa titled Goli Noir. Again, hopefully I'm saying that right, which I'll probably mispronounce every Akitsa release within this video, so woohoo me. But yes, this is a EP by Akitsa where they really throw everything at you. There's moments on here of just straight up noise, then there's like black metal noise, then there's like black punk, then straight up black metal, then there are oi punk moments. But the thing that really threw me off about this release is that they have a cover of Screwdriver of Patriot. Like, it's such a odd choice for a cover, I guess. I don't know. I guess they really enjoy punk music, but I guess that's where they get like this sketchy background from, all because they did a Screwdriver cover, but whatever. But yeah, this is a picture disc, sadly, and it gets a pass for me because since Akitsa's production during their early years was just such a lo-fi, you know, production value to it, it being on picture disc kind of gives it a pass. If anything, it probably even enhances the experience without me even realizing it. But yeah, it's limited to 333 copies. My biggest complaint, though, other than it being a picture disc, is that it doesn't come within a jacket. So what I do is I put it in a sleeve, and then I just put it within another Akitsa album's jacket, and basically it stays more safe and sound within that jacket, within the shelves. But yeah, if you want like a whole orgy of all the influences and sounds Akitsa's going to do, this EP provides all of it. Then I also have the two-way split between Akitsa and Prurient, and this right here, really the only thing about it that's worth checking out is the Akitsa material, because if you're one of those purist black metal fans, you'll have a lot of enjoyment with the Akitsa side, because really, I would say it has their heaviest and purest black metal material they ever wrote within this split. As for the Prurient side, it's just one track titled Fossil. That's just basically this one drawn-out, drony, noisy track, and that's it. Now, on paper, this seems like such a weird split. You have a black metal band playing like really just straightforward, stripped-down black metal, and a noise project. It seems so weird. But I guess if you're one of those nerds that just always likes learning the lore of any band that you're a fan of, this split makes total sense. Because it seems like OT, the vocalist of Akitsa, who owns Tortigard, is buddies with the guy from Prurient, that being Dominic Furnow, who owns Hospital Productions. And these two guys, from these two bands, have done a lot of work together when you notice it, because most recently that's gotten a lot of attention is Departure Chandelier. And Departure Chandelier has members from Ashpool and Akitsa. Dominic Furnow from Prurient is a part of Ashpool, so there's a collaboration right there of the two. Then they also have another band called Curved Blade, which shares members of Ashpool and Akitsa once again. So these guys have always been kind of buddies. Oh, and another thing too is Hospital Productions has been putting out all the represses for Akitsa. So these two have really had like a long friendship. So this split right here on paper looks weird, a black metal and noise project, but when you see the relationship between the two, it makes total sense. God, I'm such a fucking nerd that I had to explain all of that about an obscure black metal band and noise project that I don't think anyone gives a dick shit about. But yeah, other than that, you can get this on Discogs. I mean, it's the only, I think, place that sells this. and just comes on a gatefold right here, also on standard plain black vinyl. Moving on next with even more Akitsa, this is the third full length by them, titled La Grande Infamie. Again, probably saying a syllable here or there wrong. This right here is where I feel like Akitsa gets back on their high horse and realizes that they need to be a bit more experimental to a certain degree with their sound, and I feel like it's a huge step up from the sophomore album I was complaining about earlier. Now again, songwriting isn't anything all that special, as it starts off with the basic kind of like punkish black metal riff, and every outro has basically like the same tempo-like riff, just more melodic and epic for an outro, I would say. But again, what's always sold me about this band is OT's vocal performance is just so recognizable, and it's just so hard to ignore it, that it's always been the selling point for me with this band. And his vocal performance on here is absolutely killer, as I think it's the track Silence is the track on here. I think, how I remember, it's like the only English title within this album that really has some killer vocal performance on here, and had to get this once again when I was really obsessing over them. This is a first press put out through World Terror Committee. Like I said earlier, Hospital Productions has the repress out, so if you want to get it from them. And just comes also on a gatefold with lyrics and artwork, and as well, just standard plain black vinyl. Then of course, there's even more Akitsa. This is their fourth full length, titled, yeah, That. I own 2 copies of it. It's both the different variants of the vinyl pressing, which I'll show in a little bit. But I would say, within their catalog, this is my second favorite album of theirs, because there's like these keyboard moments that really makes this album icy cold and really melodic, that I feel like just works so well with their really simplistic sound that just amplifies everything, I feel like. Because the opening track on here, fuck man, that sells me on it alone, and they played it when I saw them live, which made it all the better. But yep, keeping the same formula around, but just, you know, enhancing and tweaking a little bit, especially like I said earlier with the keyboard edition on this album, really just won me over once again, and I had to get this. But yep, like I stated earlier, got both variants of it, but I'll just show the layout real quick. Again, you have the artwork, backside with track listings, really bare bones look. Again, first press throughout World Terror Committee. This comes with a printed inner sleeve with the lyrics and artwork. Here's the black variant of it, and the special edition on black and white merged swirl, limited to 100 copies. And yeah, this is when I was obsessing over them at my peak, that I was even buying all the different variants of vinyl. And keeping the Akitsa dick ride train going, we also have the Akitsa split with Ashpool. Now, kind of makes sense that these two bands would do a split, because as I stated earlier, Dominic Furnow is a part of Ashpool, and Ashpool has never really been a black metal band I've cared about all that much, because it's like, it's crazy black metal, and you know, it's fast and sporadic sounding, but it doesn't really have a sense of direction. It doesn't have like really any oomph to it. It's just like fast black metal, and that's it. Like, it's just never really won me over. But obviously, as you can tell from this video with everything I've talked about so far, obviously got it for the Akitsa side, and obviously the Akitsa side is where it's at with this two-way split. But really my biggest complaint is the layout of this, because it comes in one of these jackets, these flimsy fold-out jackets that I fucking hate so much. I hate these types of jackets. So please, labels and distros and anything out there that presses records, do not put your albums in these jackets. They're flimsy, they're cheap, and I'll gladly spend the extra $5 or however much I need to get a regular jacket, because I cannot stand this. This is a big pet peeve of mine when collecting records, when it comes in, again, jackets like this. I hate these fold-out jackets. But yeah, other than that little mini rant, really nothing much to show other than just a standard plain black vinyl. Breaking the rules now already within this vinyl series, because like I stated, I want each part to have 15 records shown. But I still have more Akitsa to show you. There's only 2 more. And I just want the next part, when we get to part 3 next week, to be something other than Akitsa. So let's just get it over and done with and break the rules a little bit here. But yeah, next up is even more Akitsa with their album Grand Tyrants. And for me, this is an album that's a mixed bag. Some of it I really like, and some of it I'm not that crazy for. Because it gets like a little too basic to some degree. Like, it gets a little too punk friendly that it doesn't even have any black metal elements anymore. It's just like a really distorted lo-fi punk album in some aspects that just don't win me over all that much. Like, yeah, I know I've always said from this video they have like a really bare bones basic sound, but it gets a little too basic to some degree with this album during some parts. But the saving grace for it has always been OT's vocal performance. I've always admired it, and it's obviously shown within this album. But yeah, this is a hospital pressing that's still available. Again, Tortiguard Hospital Production should have everything I've shown you in terms of full lengths still available on their distro, so get it there. But in terms of layout, I would say this is the best looking Akitsa album. So yeah, the artwork right here, really like the stamp foil they got with the logo. Backside with the track listing. Now what's really cool about this is the minor details. Within the jacket, it's kind of got like the forest artwork. I don't know if you'll really see it. I don't want to stretch it out that much. In there, within the jacket, printed in her sleeve with the lyrics and the greatest band photo ever. Comes on a black vinyl, but again, the sleeve for the vinyl, again, has like the art, some artwork in there, again, of like the forest. Really cool, all the little minor details they did with this album. Finally, now we get to the last record to show you within this part, and the last Akitsa album, and that would be their latest album, Credo. One of my favorite albums from 2018, and not just because, you know, it's from Akitsa is the reason why, but really I would say this is the album within their catalog that, besides their debut, is the best place to start with them, because really there's like no punk elements within this album at all. There's way more blast beats being used, and it's a much faster album compared to everything else, and they're really keeping and attaching themselves more with the traditional black metal sound here. The production as well isn't as lo-fi, but still, you know, raw enough to where I feel like, you know, most black metal fans can admire it. And again, OT's vocal performance, I would say in terms of his, you know, screeches and screams are here and are executed phenomenally, but there isn't any clean singing whatsoever within this album, besides the outro track, I believe, had some clean singing, which he's just kind of like reciting like a French poet, I think, from what I remember last up searching up with this album. But yeah, if you're a black metal fan and you want to get into Akitsa, this is the best place to start, because it's the most black metal fueled out of anything within their catalog. Plus, as well, for me too personally, again, I can't pronounce these tracks as they're all in French, but the second song in this album, I love the guitar riff. It's got like that buzzsaw sound to it, and man, with the blast beats coming over on top of it, it's just such a killer track, and I've always loved that song the most whenever I put this on the turntable. But yeah, other than that, you got the artwork backside with track listings, once again put out through Hospital Productions, which they keep this album in print, lyric sheet, and credits on the other side. And my vinyl variant comes on this clear smoky LP, limited to 500 copies. Alright guys, that'll be it for this vinyl collection part 2. Next week I'll keep up with the schedule and do part 3. Like always, links will be provided to everything I talked about within this video, besides Akitsa, because I literally showed you guys everything by them. Just check them out in general and go from there. Alright, that's all I gotta say. But yeah guys, like always, make sure you guys drink plenty of water to stay hydrated, and most importantly of all, make sure you judge people by actually getting to know them and confronting them, and not through a YouTube comment section.